right, heroes, it is I, your friendly neighborhood Rabbi John Carrier, and here for a Monday morning session of Ask Me Anything Rosh on the Jew Curious Show. This is a show for people who are curious about Judaism to learn the wisdom, the skills, the traditions to live a life of greater meaning, greater joy, greater human connection, and greater personal growth. This broadcast exists because as I was on my journey, many people held the door open for me and welcomed me into the Jewish community, and now I'm just here to pay it forward to y'all heroes. So whatever questions you have about Rosh Hashanah especially, this is coming up, y'all. Rosh Hashanah is a holiday that's starting this coming Sunday night. So if you have any burning or, even cool questions about Rosh Hashanah, feel free to ask it in the chat. Today we are simulcasting live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitch TV. And let's see, you can check out the multi-chat here. It is going live, and so whether you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube or on Twitch, we can see your questions real time, so feel free to ask away. And speaking of seeing stuff, let me go ahead and show my face. Sorry about that, guys. So here I am. Triggers and Viv says, Boker Tov, Boker, Triggers and Viv. We're getting off to a little bit of a late start, so sorry about that, everybody who's been waiting along, but glad to see people here. And look, this is a show for you if you are Jewish, if you are not Jewish, if you're not Jewish yet, maybe you're working on it, or if you're a spiritual seeker trying on different paths, or committed to some other religion altogether, but you're curious about the Jewish roots or the Hebrew roots of your own faith, you are in the right place. And especially, I'll answer any question that you ask, but especially I'm interested in getting questions about the holiday of Rosh Hashanah. This is the Jewish New Year that is coming up this coming Sunday night. So whatever questions you have outstanding about that, or outstanding questions, I'll also take those, or even underwhelming questions. There's nothing you can ask that's going to embarrass me, so feel free to ask away. If you just want to lurk, that's cool too. If you just want to watch the show, you are welcome to do so. Love to see people who are in the chat, however, so don't be scared. Say hi. This is the nicest group of people I've ever seen in the chat before. I've been around the internet for a little while now, and you don't always get a calm, chill, welcoming, kind vibe from people you might live chat with. That's not true here on the Jew Curious Show. So jump into the chat. We got Kate Dixie says hi from California. And we got the Morning Froggies going here. Ribbit. And D. Willixson says, Boker Tov L'Kulam. Good morning, everybody. Have a little bit of the lube juice here. I really ought to reach out to the Folgers people for sponsorship, because that's really the only way that I keep alive. Let me turn the music down a little bit. Maybe that'll sound better. So, in any case, I'm really happy to be learning with you here today. We've got the holiday of Rosh Hashanah coming up. That means head of the year or beginning of the year. One of the prayers that we sing during Rosh Hashanah is Hayom Harat Olam. This is the birthday of the world, right? Rosh Hashanah is the birthday of the world. So, happy birthday, world. 55,780 years never looked better on anybody, let me tell you. So that's the year count that we're going to turn over from 5779 to 5778, or going backwards there. I feel like Doc Brown traveling in time. Just showed that to my kids for the first time this last week. A classic from when I was, about 10 years old. So, no, we're going forward to 5780. The Hebrew year count is sort of an Anno Mundi count, like the year since the creation of the world, not the year of a particular event or king or Redeemer, whatever count you're counting. We count since the beginning of the world. You might ask, does that mean that Jews believe that the earth is only 5,780 years old? And the answer is no, because that's ridiculous. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm sure there are Jews who believe that. There are Christians who believe that. Other people who believe that. Even back in the time of the Talmud, as far back as like 15, 16, 1700 years ago, when the rabbis thought about, let's say, for example, the creation story in the book of Genesis, and they said, well, they asked the question, what do you really think the world was created in 6 days? And their answer was, it's complicated in the sense that, okay, it says morning and evening, it says, the sun goes down, sun comes back up again, goes down again. a first day, a second day, a third day. Even over 1,000 years ago, our scholars were like, well, maybe their days weren't like our days. Right? When we think of a day, we think of a discrete period of approximately 24.25 hours or something like that, or however long, scientifically a day is. We think of a day as boom, boom, discrete period of time, not that long time to not eat, not to scare you about Yom Kippur, but really, like in the grand scheme of things, a day feels like a pretty short period of time. And so the rabbis thought, well, maybe, God's days back then were not the same length as our days today. For God, that would, something that takes 24 hours for us would be like that. Nevertheless, got a lot done on those days. Very, very productive. So perhaps, the sun and the moon and the cycles like that were different from the way they are now. And we're really speaking about what we would perceive, if we could, in epochs or just long, long periods of time. So, again, if rabbis well before Copernicus, could figure out that, okay, when it says 6 days in Genesis, it doesn't mean 6 contiguous portions of approximately 24.25 hours each. It could have been something different. This is our way of understanding something that we weren't around for. And so perhaps that 5,780 years isn't like we perceive a year today either. So just wanted to nerd out on calendar stuff for a little bit there. Let's see. Kay Dixie says, good morning. Hope your whole family is doing well. Thank you very much for that. I don't know if you're talking to me or everybody. Yeah, we're a little bit late this morning. My wife is traveling for business, which means it is baby daddy week. And so just me and the kids hanging out, getting lunches made, getting kids fed breakfasts, getting them to school. We usually, my wife is an incredible wife. She's an incredible mother. Shoulders a lot of the practicalities around here. And so I'm going to see if I can figure out how to do all this week. And I know that, I try not to take her for granted. I'm not perfect. Sometimes I do, but this week will remind me exactly how integral to my life my partner is. So we'll see. Might be late for a couple of broadcasts here and there, but I'm here. I'm in the saddle. Let's see. I'm right now. I'm with you. Jew Curious Show. Ask your questions. Let me go check the multi-chat to see who is up and about in other places. Let's see. So this is so cool. This is something I figured out this week that had just been sitting there right in front of me this whole time. For a long time now, I've just been watching the chat on Twitch, which is the platform that I use to live stream. Thinking, okay, well, maybe someday I'll invest in the hyper expensive computer system and equipment and software to watch 3 chats at once, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. And then I discovered that there was just a little button that I could boop the button, and now I can see chats from YouTube and Facebook and Twitch all at once. Let's see, we got Kay Dixie is coming in from YouTube, Triggers and Viv is here on Twitch. Let's see, we got D. Willexen is still here on Twitch. Vanna70 says, hi from Germany on YouTube. Hi to Germany, Vanna. Nice to see you. Let's see. We got KG Wilcox, Boker Tov, everyone. Holy Clan 1900 says, could you please tell us about the dress code for these holidays? All right, you have to wear your school jacket and tie in your school colors. No, that was a dress code for my high school. Sorry, I went to one of those fancy dancy prep schools. So the dress code is like, you dress nice. I don't know how else to say that. I mean, it will vary from community to community. We're not talking about renting a tuxedo or anything, but let's say this is the big show. This is the big time of year, and I would dress about the nicest you ever dress in a synagogue, short of, let's say, getting married. Right? People should dress nice in synagogue anyway. Especially, if you're coming on a regular Shabbat. Wear different clothes than you wear during the week. And sometimes people ask, well, I wear, if I have one of those jobs where I wear a suit all week and a tie, should I, dress it down? Should I go like shorts and a t-shirt on Shabbat? Not necessarily. You want to do it. You want to dress in a way that shows your honor for the space and for the occasion. I would dress at least as nice as you regularly dress on Shabbat if you go to Shabbat services. I'm going to confess, sometimes it is a bit of a fashion show. These are some folks who, this is the big I don't want to say this is the big service of the year. We have, 3 prayer services a day, 4 on Shabbat and holidays. We have ways to come together in holy occasion every day of the year. And I'm going to acknowledge the reality that there are a lot of Jewish folks and Jew-curious folks who go to the synagogue on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and maybe not other times during the year. This is another reality you should be prepared for if you are going to a synagogue for the first time, or this is your first High Holy Days going to a synagogue. It's going to be different. It's going to be a different space. I sometimes joke around with my Christian colleagues, other clergy that I get to hang out with sometimes, and I say, how in your place there's 2 days a year where people who don't normally come, and then you're building, a building that's usually there to create holy space for like 20 or 30 or 50 people, maybe 100 has to expand to hold 500 or 1,000 people. And they're like, yeah, we have, Christmas and Easter and things like that. And I was like, all right, imagine if that was true for you, but your 2 days were like 10 days apart, right? So different religions have to accommodate this, where there's the regular crowd, and then there's the once or twice a year crowd, and you have to be able to expand so that, you can't be in this grand hall that holds 1,000 people if you've only got 50 people there, but you have to adjust your architecture so that it'll hold all these people in one space, where it doesn't normally do that throughout the year. So, for example, in many synagogues I've been to, the main sanctuary space will have kind of a sliding door or something that opens into a social hall where you'll go for lunch or kiddush or whatever. But they've already been doing this in my synagogue, where they're opening up the social hall, they're filling it with chairs. So, what might hold 400 or 500 people now holds 800 or 1,000 people. So there will be people who haven't seen each other for the whole year, and so they're going to dress nice. They're going to be like, hey, this is our nice holiday. So you'll see people really maybe dressed up more than they do on a regular Shabbat, let's say. So I would say the dress code is, and I don't tell women how to dress normally. So that's there's people should be dressed nicely, modestly. Don't break the bank. This is not designed to impoverish you, but dress about as nice as you would ever dress going to a religious service. This is it's Shabbat plus. It's like Shabbat is a holy day enough. These are our holiest times of year. So, if you're a dude, put on a tie, put on a jacket. If that's the dressing nice custom of where you are, in Timbuktu, it might have a different dress code for how to dress formally. But so, dress nice. It's not casual Friday. It's not business casual. It might, just dress in a way that dignifies yourself, shows respect for the other people around you, shows respect for the space. I will, again, I don't like to tell women how to dress because they have an even more complicated dress customs than men do. You should be dressed somewhat modestly, I wouldn't wear like short skirts and tube tops and things like that, but dress nicely and modestly. And also, it could be cold in there. I want to tell you, like, they will be, because of the number of people in the room just generating body heat, they will be cranking the AC down to the minimum that it will go. So you might want to bring a sweater. It could be, I'll just say, as we say in California about everything, layering is a good idea. So dress so that, okay, if it gets warm where you are, you can be comfortable and still be covered up. But you might want to bring a sweater in case it's cranked way down in there. In addition to that, you might also see a lot of people wearing white. And so this is a time of year where we come with repentance. Rosh Hashanah, it's like a fun New Year's celebration, but it's also entering a time called the Aseret Yemei Teshuvah, like the 10 days of repentance. And one way we enter a space of repentance, of supplication, of humbling ourselves is to wear white as a symbol of the purity that we aspire to. So you might see people who normally don't dress in white wearing like white linen suits or all white dresses or all white outfits or something like that. You might see the people up on the bima wearing white robes or a kippel or something like that. So you might see people wearing white. So if you've been waiting to take out your white duds, even though it's after Labor Day, I know technically, feel free to wear your white stuff. So that's another piece of the dress code as well. So I hope that's helpful for you. Let's see, what was the name there? I haven't seen this name before. Just look through here. Just looking through the chat. Sorry about that. I know this is bad radio. So Holy Clan 1900. I hope that's helpful for you. Dress about as nice as you feel comfortable dressing. Feel free to wear white in some. Dress modestly. Don't be showing a lot of skin. And layers. Layers are important as well. So let's see. And KG Wilcox says, yes, it does depend on your community. Like if you're at a Florida beach community or something, the standard of nice dress might be different than what it is in, like, I don't know, Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I spent a lot of years. I have heard that, Kay Dixie says, I have heard that some people ask, why recite the long list of wrongdoings when they as individuals didn't do most of these things? So this came up, we just had the Slichot service in my community, where I teach in Pasadena, and we talked about why are the litany of sins, if you will. There's these things like the Shamnu and the Al-Hait, where we say, God forgive us for these times when we cheated and lied and stole, and you'll see people beating their chests, quite literally, like, we did this, we spoke badly about others, and some people be like, all right, I'm with you, like, in spirit, but I didn't do all of these things. Like, I did, like, 3 of these things, but why am I saying this? And I think that the key is, as KG Wilcox is saying, because we're all responsible for one another, and saying your own sins out loud would be really embarrassing. So that's 2 very important ideas in there. The idea is that when we go into these spaces, and it is a very individualistic, from one perspective, introspective holiday. Like, I'm there to think about what I did wrong and take responsibility for my actions and how I want to be in the future. But if we're doing it in a community, we're also doing it kind of in formation with all the other people in the room, and you could think all the other Jews around the world, or people in Jewish communities around the world. And so we do have a sense of responsibility for the community's behavior. And part of taking that responsibility is saying, okay, look, if anybody in here is coming up short, I'm connected to that person. Maybe there's a way that I can help them be better in the coming year. So I'm going to take some responsibility for that and say, it wasn't about what I did. It's about, and it sounds funny when I do this, I know. It wasn't about what I did. It's about what we did. And how are we going to get stronger together, because we can actually help each other out of that. And so when you're going into these kind of confessional things, and it lists all these terrible things, think, okay, maybe I didn't do that, but maybe there's somebody here who did, who could use my help, right? And that you might not have to reach out to them and do a Liza Doolittle on them and like try to fix their behavior individually, but maybe you could model good behavior, right? Think about this list of things and say, okay, I'm going to avoid these things in the coming year so that people can see that there's a better way to live. And you don't have to be all, sanctimonious, which means like thou, only holier. You don't have to be that way about it, but just try to live a good life and where other people can see you living a good life, and that will help them. And so first, before fixing anything, we've got to take responsibility for our actions. We've got to take responsibility for our community. And I think that's sort of the spirit of the Ashamnu for me. Like Ashamnu meaning like we sinned. Whether you feel like you did it or not, you're connected to somebody who did, and you can help them out of that spot. So great questions this morning about dress code and collective responsibility for sinning. Let's see what else is going on. Kate Dixie says, yay for moms, true to that. Let's see. KG Wilcox says, had to reload to see the stream, thought the rabbi was on hold. Sorry all, no worry. Butch Feelings says, hey all, nice to see you, Butch Feelings. Let's see what else is going on. Miss Bob Ross is Mrs. Bob Ross is in the house. Shalom, everyone. Nice to see you, Vanna. What happens on Erev Rosh Hashanah? Let's see. Well, that's the first day of the new year for one thing. It's no longer Elul. It's now the sun goes down on Erev Rosh Hashanah. You are now in Tishrei, which is the first month of the new year, 5780, even though it's the 7th month of the calendar year. And I've talked about that before. Why do we celebrate New Year's on this 7th month of the year? That's a long story. So we can come back to that another time. But in any case, what happens if you go to services, it's very much like an evening prayer service. It's got the same content as an evening prayer service, right? We start with the Baruch, the call to prayer. Everybody stands and they bow, facing the same direction. And you've got the Shema and its blessings, and you've got the Amidah and its blessings. Some of the content of the Amidah is a little bit different. It's a little bit longer. There's some extra prayers thrown in there. So structurally, it's the same as like a Friday evening Shabbat service. However, the morning froggies are still in there. However, there's a little bit more to it. There's sort of additional passages added to the prayers. Some of the blessings are different in the Amidah, as is kind of the usual. Like on Shabbat, the Amidah is different from weekdays, and on holidays, it's different from Shabbat. You know, the first couple of blessings are the same, the last couple of blessings are the same, but what's in the middle acknowledges the sanctity of that special day. And so instead of having a blessing, you know, asking for crops and health, like on weekdays, or a blessing, we bless God for sanctifying Shabbat, we'll bless God for this holy occasion of Rosh Hashanah. So other than that, it's kind of like a regular evening prayer service or a regular Shabbat evening prayer service with slightly different blessings. Might be a little bit longer, maybe some more songs thrown in there. The tunes will sound different. We have this custom called Nusach, which is different, let's say, musical rubrics for different times of year, so that a Friday evening service sounds different from a Thursday evening service, and a holiday evening service sounds different, has different kind of melodies than a Saturday evening or than a Friday evening service, so that some would say you can, a Jewish person who's knowledgeable about the different tunes can walk into, doesn't need a calendar, doesn't need a clock, can walk into a synagogue service, although you might be late if you don't have a clock. But you don't need a calendar. You walk into a synagogue service, you hear the tunes, and you know that it's a different kind of day. And the high holy days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur have their own melodies, often, for the most part, same prayers, just sung in a different melody. So you'll hear different melodies, preceding the, I'm trying to think the Friday night melody. I hear it all the time. It's like, da 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 da. No, it's Friday evening. It's like da 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 da, Baruch Hu, etc., etc., da 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 da. Same prayer on Erev Rosh Hashanah will start with something like da 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 da. I can't believe I'm singing on this channel, but there you go. So the tunes are a little bit different. So again, similar prayers with a little bit of additional material, different tunes, and again, you might see people there that you don't normally see on a Friday night. Might be a little bit longer sermon, so it's probably going to go a little bit longer than a normal Friday night service. But so, I'll be giving a sermon that kind of sets up my other sermons for the holiday. We're going to have, in my place, we're going to have a couple of lay people from the congregation get up and speak about different things. You might have, the president of the congregation might get up and say more words than she or he usually does on a Friday evening service. So there's a little bit more pomp and circumstance to it, if you will. But for the most part, the prayers are the same. So that's what happens on Erev Rosh Hashanah. Another thing people do, like they do on Fridays or other holidays, is dinner. So you'll have, you might either before services or after services, depending on the schedule of your community, you might have a big dinner at your house or go to a big dinner at somebody else's house. Another thing that's different is that the challah might look different. Normally we might have long braided loaves of challah. On the high holy days, the custom is that the challah be a round loaf of challah, sort of symbolizing the cyclical or circular nature of Jewish time. So the challah will be different. Might have raisins in it because we like sweet stuff. You might have at your Erev Rosh Hashanah dinner table apples and honey to drizzle on there, dip in there. So that's a little bit different. So yes, some things are the same, some things are different, trending toward the sweet stuff. So make sure, set up your dentist appointments for after Rosh Hashanah so you can enjoy the sweets and deal with the consequences later. Let's see. KG Wilcox says, "Dang, Rabbi, I wanted to wear a morning coat." That was in reference to my no tuxes on Rosh Hashanah comment. Vanna says, "I'm invited and have no idea what to expect." So I've been there. So if you have no idea what to expect, if you're going to services or somebody's house for dinner, just I say be open. Wear your holiday clothes, wear your nicest duds, and just be open to the experience. And so you will learn. I mean, I can tell you what it's all about, but no, there's no learning like being there and doing it. So just be open, be humble, let people teach you things, but just understand people are. It's a celebration. It's a holiday. People are going to be nice to you. So don't be scared. Just kind of let yourself be immersed in the experience. Let's see. What else is going on in the chat? Let's see. Holy Clan RE dress code. Having seen Reform and Orthodox in Reform, it's mostly about in Reform. It's about wearing mainly white, but not fancy. Orthodox is a little more white only for the ladies, and the men just wear their black trousers and white shirts like usual. That's just what I've seen. Thanks for the hints, Rabbi, from everyone in the audience, too. Rabbi John, any news on your holy services being streamed via email invite? So I shared this last Friday, so I'll reiterate it. I did ask the question, so what Mrs. Bob Ross is asking about is that at the synagogue where I'm working this year, Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center, they are experimenting with some live streaming technology, and I wanted to know if that was going to be accessible to people of this show and people in my audience. The answer, unfortunately, is no, and it's not out of spite. please understand that. It's just that our streaming technology isn't there yet. Like, the stuff was basically just installed, still figuring out how to work. It may be available on a limited basis to people who are kind of in the congregation, but it's really not ready for public consumption just yet, because we don't want to put it out there if it's going to look bad or be distracting or something like that. So stay tuned for maybe some live streaming Shabbat services in the future, and live streaming High Holy Days next year. But this year, it's just not ready. That's what I've been told. So wanted to pass on the bad news to you guys. But at the same time, there are going to be, if you're looking to live stream services to see if you're not close to a synagogue. If you're close to a synagogue and you can be in a synagogue, I highly recommend it. But I know a lot of people who are watching this don't have that kind of accessibility and are seeking out live streams. I'll say anybody in this audience who has a good place that live streams and and you can send a link, please do. Feel free to put those links here in the chat. It's not going to be available at Pasadena this year. Sorry about that. But if other people have recommendations, please feel free to throw those into the chat. All right, let's see. Pretzel Rocks is still playing some tunes. Triggers and Viv have to go. Hearts to you all. Good to see you, Triggers and Viv. Looking through the chat. Kay Dixie says, Mrs. Bob Ross, one can see especially Reform Yom Kippur podcasts on YouTube. Okay, there's that. Christy B says, break between classes, says shalom. Nice to see you, Christy B from San Bernardino. Let's see. What else is going on? Mrs. Bob Ross says, welcome, Christy B. Emily Kowal. Sorry, I need some binoculars to read this chat over here so I can see all the chats at once. It's still kind of fine print. Not directly related. If someone wants to learn to play Jewish music, where could they start? Well, that's an excellent question. I'm a huge fan of Jewish music myself. How does one learn any genre of music? Presumably, you're sort of a musician already and just looking to learn a different style. I would go on. Personally, I would say, I'm not a musician, so I don't know how to tell musicians how to learn music. But where I would probably start, if I had, a musical ear, if I knew how to pick out chords on the guitar and things like that, I think a great resource might be YouTube. For example, just go on YouTube and type in Jewish music. You'll hear a great variety because there's no just one type of Jewish music. There's some characteristically Jewish music like klezmer, which is more like Eastern European jazz from the early 20th, late 19th century, things like that. One of my favorite Jewish artists is Joey Weissenberg, who not only teaches great Jewish music, but also teaches very deeply about the Torah of music, or how music was talked about in the Torah. In fact, there's a great book he wrote called The Music of Torah, which I highly recommend. And it lists all sorts of different citations in the Torah and rabbinic literature about how important music has always been to our people. He's got another great book, I think his first book, Building Singing Communities, actually has some sheet music in it for nigunim. These are Jewish melodies that you can try out. So that would be my, if I play guitar, and I actually, like one time I was learning with Joe and he told me, he's like, you should play guitar. Just because he's very straightforward like that. And I was telling him the kind of music I was into, which was like Greg Brown and Hank Williams, in addition to Jewish music. And he's like, those have some easy chords. You should learn to play guitar so you can play those songs. So still working on it. Still thinking about it. I haven't worked on it that hard. But just get whatever instrument you're on. If you know how to imitate sounds, go on YouTube, type in Jewish music. I highly recommend Joey Weissenberg. Type Joey Weissenberg in there to hear some great tunes, and pick up his books, The Torah of Music and Building Singing Communities. Those are a couple of great ways to learn music, to learn about music, and to teach music, Jewish music, to other people in your community and in your life. How long? Let's see. Vanna 70 says, how long is the Erev Rosh Hashanah service? Presumably, it's like an hour and a half, probably. Like if your regular Friday night service where you go is like an hour, Erev Rosh Hashanah is like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at the outside. Again, it sort of varies by what denomination or flavor of community you're going into. I'll say it's not like a morning service, which can be 2, 3, 4 hours long, but it's going to be somewhere between an hour and 2 hours, probably along the mean of 90 minutes. That's my guess. So, but your mileage may vary, as they say in the automotive business. So, I know we started a little late. I'm gonna have to end a little early today. We've got a back-to-back teaching. I'm about to jump into the Jew Curious School. So love learning live with anybody who can show up to learn live with me. There's another thing that I do called the Jew Curious School, where we've got a great community. I'm going to say we got about 50 or 60 people in there at this point who are learning live with me on a weekly basis. In just a little bit, we're about to start our live weekly Torah class. We're learning about Parashat Nitzavim, and in that context, we'll be going over my very favorite all-time piece of Talmud, or like just a piece of that very favorite piece of Talmud, which talks about sort of the responsibility that we have. God makes Torah completely accessible to every single one of us. What does that give us the power to do, and what does that give us the responsibility to do? That the Torah isn't off someplace only accessible by, scholars and monks and things like that. We can all hold the Torah in our hands, and what does that mean for us, how we walk in the world? So we'll be learning about that in our weekly Torah class, and after that we have part 2 of our Tshuva class, which is I forgive you. Like how to say I forgive you. How do you forgive people? Maybe even or especially if you don't feel like forgiving people. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later this morning. If you want to know about the Jew Curious School, just go to jewcurious.school/info, and I think that'll take you where you need to go. If you're watching us on Twitch, there's a little link at the bottom, Jew Curious School. Find that place, get in with us. You can try it risk-free for 30 days. And my favorite part, not just the classes, I love the classes that we do. And if you can't make a live class, they're all recorded. We've got over 100 lessons in there. My favorite part is the community that we have. And if you've liked being with the community here on Twitch or on the live stream of the Jew Curious show, a lot of these people are in there, and they're just as nice, if not nicer, in the community forum section of the Jew Curious School. So with that, I'm going to sign off. I should say that this is going to be our last Monday broadcast for a while, because we've got a lot of holidays that are coming up that fall on Mondays. First day of Rosh Hashanah is on a Monday. First day of Sukkot. The penultimate day of Sukkot, which is also a holiday, is on a Monday. So I'm not going to be broadcasting on Mondays. Have other work during the week. And the one Monday that's not a holiday, October 7th, I've got some Beit Din work to do that day, just squeezing it in. So this is going to be our last Monday broadcast, probably till like late October. And you'll know what it is. Always just check back to the Jew Curious show page on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Jew Curious, and there's like a little countdown clock. Our schedule is there with a little countdown clock till the next episode. But we will be on for Fun Fridays, so I'm not going to let go of Fun Fridays. That's where we do the same kind of thing we're doing right now, except while I play video games badly. So if you want to ask me anything while I'm playing Super Mario Odyssey or Overcooked or some family-friendly game like that, tune in for Fun Fridays every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern. And as always, really grateful for the opportunity to learn with you, Hero. Until next time, peace.